to join us this Tuesday afternoon or mid-morning, depending on where you're joining us from. We're so excited to spend the next hour or so with you. I know folks will kind of continue to trickle in, but we have a full agenda, so I'll go ahead and jump right in. We're thrilled to have the chance to discuss the basics of pro bono consulting and provide some tips for successful pro bono partnerships. Today, we hope that this will be an opportunity for us to share from our wealth of knowledge from years as leaders in the pro bono field, and also provide some space for a bit of connection, since if I had to guess, everyone in the room today shares an interest in giving back, and we're excited to share some ways to act on this common motivation. So we'll start our presentation by grounding us in a common understanding of Taproot's background and what skills-based volunteering is. After this overview, we'll touch on the impact and benefits of donating your expertise by touching on some recent survey data from our nonprofits and highlighting a success story. Then we'll walk you through Taproot Plus, our online volunteer platform that connects you with nonprofits looking for capacity building support. And we'll end our event today by sharing our top tips for success. So before I get too far into this conversation, I just wanted to briefly mention some logistic notes to keep in mind as we continue. I'm joined by my lovely colleague, Kristen Maiku, who will be supporting me behind the scenes. Kristen is an integral part to making these events happen, so I want to take a moment to give her a huge shout out for her support. Today's event is webinar style, which means no need to worry about your camera or coming off mute. We'll handle the presentation, and Kristen will be paying close attention to the chat to keep track of any questions or comments you may have. She'll also share some resources where applicable, so keep an eye out for those. We've enabled closed captions, so subtitles are available if that's helpful for you. You can turn these on or off using the settings gear icon that's above the chat box. The event will be recorded, and we'll make sure to share our PowerPoint, the recording, and some follow-up resources with you following the event. So no need to scramble to take any notes, but please feel free to ask questions throughout. We've also built in some time at the end dedicated to answering any questions we don't address during the presentation. I know there were a few questions submitted in the registration, so we'll also do our best to address those questions and any that come up during our conversation. There's no question that's too small, so ask away. And if at any point during our presentation you run into any issues, don't hesitate to message in the chat, and we'll do our best to support you. Speaking of chat, I see some introductions coming in already, but let's dig into those. As I mentioned previously, this is a great space for community and to connect with other fellow volunteer professionals. So we'd love to hear who's in the room. We're seeing that come through already. We have Alyssa, Jim, Anna, others coming in. So go ahead and drop your name, where you're joining us from, and if you're comfortable, maybe share a little bit about your professional background or what piqued your interest in joining today's event to learn more about pro bono consulting. You're also more than welcome to share your LinkedIn, since this can be a great space for a little networking, and we want to provide that connection. So I'll get us started as you kind of keep coming through. My name is Grace Litsu. I use she, her pronouns. I'm based in the Denver metro area, where I've definitely been savoring the late summer heat and enjoying my fair share of peaches and watermelon before the leaves begin to change colors. At Taproot, I'm a manager on our pro bono services team, and my role involves all things volunteer community. This includes making sure pro bono consultants feel supported, and that Taproot is creating the best environment possible to bring in this crucial form of support for our nonprofits. I'm always available to listen, assist, provide suggestions, or anything you might need. And my favorite part of this job is really getting to see the compassion and connection that often comes from pro bono partnerships. And I'm really passionate about bringing people together and fostering relationships. So if you've already created a Taproot account, you may have started receiving emails from me. So I'm glad to have this chance to formally introduce myself to you all. And after this webinar, you'll have access to my own LinkedIn, and my proverbial door is always open. So feel free to reach out. And again, thank you to those of you who have been dropping your introductions in the chat. And I encourage you to keep an active dialogue going. We'll do our best to monitor that, but also know that it's a good space for you all. All right, so without further ado, let's get into the content here. So we wanted to start by providing some greater context into our organization as a whole. As you may know, Taproot is a nonprofit that exists to support our fellow nonprofits. We have been in existence since 2001, and sorry, one second here. And we serve organizations who may very well have the solutions to our world's most pressing social challenges, but maybe simply do not have financial means or staff capacity to carry out those missions to the fullest extent. So that's where we kind of come in to support democratizing access to resources for nonprofits, regardless of their mission area, budget size, or years that they've been in operation. And we do this in three main buckets. The first is Taproot Plus, which is likely where you're most familiar with us. And this is our free online platform that connects professionals with nonprofits in need of capacity building expertise. And these can fall in buckets like marketing, human resources, technology, strategy, finance, operations, and really everything in between. Taproot Plus offers two main ways for volunteers to contribute, and these are projects and sessions, and we'll get into those in greater detail later on in the presentation. Our programming doesn't stop with Taproot Plus. So to fuel our work, Taproot partners with forward-thinking companies, foundations, and community organizations to design custom skills-based volunteering programs. And since our founding, Taproot's advisory services team has worked with over 100 Fortune 500 companies to match employee expertise with nonprofit needs. When our funding and priorities align, these programs may include sponsored team-based or local events, and we're occasionally able to share about these events with our broader volunteer network. And as these come up, you'll hear about them through the Taproot website, or maybe directly through your employer if they're a Taproot partner. And at the end of the day, Taproot exists to make it so that every nonprofit has access to professional support and capacity resources that they need to fully act on their mission. So to achieve this vision, we're actively working to work ourselves out of a job, so to speak, which brings us to our last programming bucket, which is field building. And this involves advancing the pro bono movement by conducting sector research, creating educational resources, and hosting community events like this one. And our field building efforts are intended to empower the growth of high quality pro bono consulting across sectors to ensure equitable resource access for those nonprofits. And I wanted to kind of mention what skills-based volunteering is in more of a definition term. I've mentioned it a few times, so I wanted to get into some specifics about what it is. So we define skills-based volunteering as a donation of your abilities, talents, networks, and resources to social good organizations. We also refer to skills-based volunteering as skilled volunteering, or by its abbreviation, which is SBV, or you might hear it as pro bono consulting. These terms all have the same meaning, and you might be most familiar with pro bono from the legal field, which has a really well-established ethic of donating professional capacity. But why stop there? Taproot really believes that every professional has valuable skills that you could offer to support other sectors, and we're working to make pro bono as widely utilized in every field as it is in that legal field. Skills-based volunteering offers many benefits to both nonprofits and volunteers. So we'll kind of dig into some of those benefits for nonprofits. Firstly, working with skilled volunteers fills experience gaps and gives nonprofits more time and tools to do the things that they're uniquely good at. Skills-based volunteering adds to their capacity to serve their community. Skills-based volunteering also builds lasting connections. As I mentioned at the beginning, that's kind of my favorite part of working with Taproot volunteers and nonprofits. While this isn't expected, it's common to see volunteers and nonprofits develop strong relationships that extend beyond the initial Taproot Plus engagement. We've heard stories of volunteers becoming advocates, donors, board members, and even staff members beyond their project or session. It also can't be understated just how impactful skills-based volunteering is. Beyond sharing valuable expertise that contributes to sustainable growth of an organization way beyond the partnership, it also has a very tangible financial value. So Taproot has been able to establish that the average hourly benefit of donation of your time and skills is equal to about $220 in financial value, which can go a long way to support resource-strapped organizations. And here's for my number people. Here's an overview of Taproot by the numbers. So across Taproot Foundation, we've engaged over 40,000 volunteers in our programming, whether that's through advisory services or on Taproot Plus. These volunteers have collectively donated over 1.9 million hours of their time, which has delivered over $320 million in impact. And we've served over 19,000 social good organizations. Our virtual platform, Taproot Plus, has over 400 virtual and occasionally local volunteer opportunities, which are added to daily. And this really illustrates our commitment to mobilizing passionate individuals such as y'all to serving social good organizations, making lasting change. And it's a massive, massive movement and network that you're all a part of. Okay, so with this context in place, let's go ahead and dig deeper into the impact and benefit of skills-based volunteering, especially as it relates to you all, to the volunteers. So starting with a why now, I talked a little bit about the benefits for nonprofits of skills-based volunteering, but we are in a unique position in the social sector right now. So let's set the scene for what's going on in that nonprofit sector to better understand the challenges and opportunities being faced by nonprofits in this rapidly changing landscape. Taproot launched our nonprofit pulse survey this spring. So from April 2nd to May 27th, we received feedback from 175 nonprofit leaders and staff representing a wide range of nonprofit causes, budgets, and regions. And what we found is 80% of the nonprofits that we heard from shared that they're facing new challenges, and around 74% reported an increase in demand for their programming. So they're facing a lot of change and also a heightened need. And these results really emphasized what many in and around the nonprofit field have been feeling, which is that nonprofits are under immense strain as they work to meet growing demand despite some shrinking resources and a lot of uncertainty. And so now more than ever, nonprofits could use the support of experts like you to help them continue to serve their communities. So that's a little bit of kind of a tangible piece of why now. But there's also a lot of a lot of benefits of SBV for the volunteer. And based on what I just shared, the biggest opportunity and the biggest benefit from donating your professional skills is the joy of making a difference alongside the people who are working every day to make our communities stronger, kinder, and more just. So there's a personal fulfillment aspect that I'm sure is part of why you all are here. Supporting social causes that are near and dear to your heart is core to volunteering. Volunteering also offers the opportunity to learn more about social issues that maybe you're not familiar with, or learn about how nonprofits are addressing challenges in innovative and community-based ways. And these are certainly core to what volunteering has to offer, but we also recognize that there are other motivations to get involved as volunteers, and we don't want to shy away from the benefits of skills-based volunteering as it pertains to your own growth. We think it's important to recognize all aspects of why you come to us as volunteers. So skills-based volunteering also offers the opportunity to expand your network. By working with nonprofit organizations, you'll be able to engage and connect with people outside of your everyday context. context. So the people that you work with on a day-to-day basis, you're very comfortable with. You might be able to meet some people outside of that little bubble and expand your horizons. You'll have the opportunity to meet new people by connecting with nonprofit leaders, with fellow volunteers like today, and professionals across sectors, which allows you to grow your own community while making a difference. It can also help you strengthen your skills and build your resume or portfolio. And we have a lot of resources on Taproot Plus that are related specifically to this and on our website. But it allows you to have the opportunity to put skills into practice and helps you showcase real world application of your skills in different contexts. So, engaging in this kind of volunteering helps you develop soft skills like collaboration, project management, problem solving, and leadership, which are key aspects of all pro bono partnerships that can strengthen your professional narrative. You'll also sharpen your technical skills while gaining fresh perspectives and being exposed to different challenges that can contribute to your growth. Taproot actually has a few resources, as I mentioned, and we recently did a webinar specifically on pro bono consulting and professional development. So definitely encourage you to check out those resources if you are interested in learning more about this kind of intersection and these benefits. But overall, the benefits of skills-based volunteering are what make it unique. Not only does it provide you the opportunity to support nonprofits, but it gives you the opportunity to have valuable connection and serve a strategic role in your own growth as well as the growth of your community. And I wanted to kind of bring it down into a personal level and show just how impactful skills-based volunteering can be by sharing a success story from one of our volunteers. So Andrew Meadows began his volunteer journey while he was searching for his next job. During this search, he was also evaluating what he wanted to do in the next chapter of his career. He was doing a little soul searching, and this is where Taproot came in. As he began working with nonprofits, Andrew was reintroduced to the work that fuels him and had an added dose of confidence that he was able to gain through working with nonprofits. He discovered that pro bono offered the opportunity to not only flex your skills, but also gain some validation that there are organizations and opportunities that can benefit from your experience, especially in a job search and a job market that can be somewhat self-defeating, especially right now. It also, at the same time, allowed Andy to make his job applications more dynamic by showing that he was still actively working in his field, even maybe between opportunities, and by demonstrating his commitment to the community. So kind of pulls in that skill aspect, but also can make you more dynamic in terms of wanting to support community. He used some of his connections through pro bono that he gained as references. And we can talk a little bit more about that too. And his volunteer experience came in handy during job interviews. So you're able to use that experience as you're talking about your skills. As he was reflecting on his experience, he was also struck by how transformative his skills could be for organizations. He shared that the things that are really easy for him to do can move mountains to organizations that he was working with. So just showing up goes a long way, and I think that's a really important narrative here. And in terms of building your own confidence to jump into volunteer opportunities. And Andy is just one of our growing networks of volunteers like you who are unlocking the power of pro bono and truly seeing the mutual benefit that it can create. All right, so now that everyone's excited to get involved with pro bono consulting, having gone through those impacts and some background, let's jump right into talking about Taproot Plus and how you all can get involved. Okay, so to start, we recommend taking some steps back to reflect. And I'll walk you through what I recommend you consider before you start browsing opportunities. And as I kind of walk through this, I encourage you all, if you're comfortable, to share your answers to any of these questions in the chat. So it can be really helpful to take a step back and just think about what is your professional superpower? What are things that you feel like you're really uniquely good at, that you would want to offer to a nonprofit? These are things that you feel passionate about, that you do in your work, and that you carry forward. Um, I know we have some volunteers at different phases in their volunteer journey with us today, but this can be kind of a helpful question to start framing what kind of opportunities do you want to look for and how do you want to contribute your skills. Another question that you might consider is what social causes are near and dear to your heart. So, thinking about things like housing and housing insecurity, or food and food insecurity, women's rights, education and access to education. These things are kind of under that category of what tugs at your heartstrings and what are things in your community that you really want to contribute to helping further missions around. Um, I see, like, Erica dropped in. She's a CRM expert, and so she can kind of help manage those day to day on the CRM side, or advise how you could build a CRM. Those are things that are great to offer. And really answer this question of what is your professional superpower. And then another question you might consider are, what personal or professional growth do you hope to achieve through volunteering? So we just kind of talked about some of those benefits of skills-based volunteering from a lens of wanting to demonstrate and grow your skills. So if you have a goal in mind, that's also helpful to consider as you begin browsing. So we will share this out again afterwards, and I encourage you to take some time to think through these three questions before diving into browsing. And you're, as I keep going, you're still welcome to put in some ideas about these answers. I see Jim said he's currently helping a nonprofit in the rare diseases space with strategic planning, and so that's kind of gets at all those answers there, the cause area and the skill. I see a data analyst and good with visualization. I think that could be really helpful for nonprofits who have a lot of information coming in from their community members and are looking for help on how to organize it into some spaces. Really loving seeing those reflections come in. Encourage you to keep it coming. And as we think about what it might look like to translate your skills into a nonprofit sector, there's often some different expectations, or working with a nonprofit can be culturally a little bit different than a for pay professional engagement. So there's some things that we kind of encourage you to keep in mind as you're transitioning your skills and how you think about your skills to the nonprofit sector. So we really want to highlight that mutual benefit aspect. Both you and the nonprofit bring unique areas of expertise to the partnership. So you come in as a subject matter expert with these kind of professional skills that are coming through, things like instructional designer. I even see someone who said, I'm a helper and a challenger. Those things that maybe you are a strategic thinker and you can provide that outside perspective for those nonprofits. But at the same time, the nonprofit is uniquely great at understanding their communities. They're the experts of how their organization works. And so kind of meeting them in the middle there to understand how you both bring expertise to the table can be really helpful. We always recommend listening and seeking to understand before offering solutions. So really getting at that root cause analysis, asking a lot of questions to understand the situation as you're thinking of supporting the nonprofit. Also involving your nonprofit partner in every step of the decision making can be really key to having a positive outcome and a strong impact there. Also be direct about your recommendations, needs, and expectations. So when we get into those tips a little bit later on, we'll talk a lot about communicating upfront, and it can be really helpful to set those expectations clearly and throughout the whole process in order to kind of make the best of your situation. Also stay open-minded. There's a lot of hats or changes that might come through as you're working with a nonprofit. So just be flexible as nonprofits are often working to address the challenges as they come up. And so sometimes that might mean that the context changes and the deliverable might shift. So I encourage you to be flexible as that works through. And our golden rule of pro bono, as we call it, is to treat skills-based volunteering like paid work. So we ask our nonprofits to treat you as if they were paying you, and we would encourage you to do the same because that really increases that quality of work. So those are some tips. Again, we'll share that out at the end because I know that's a lot of information, and you can kind of dig into it on your own. But I wanted to provide a little bit of a walkthrough of our Taproot Plus platform for those who are kind of just getting started with it. So on the screen here, you'll see a screenshot of the homepage, which is where what you'll see when you type in taprootfoundation.org. This is where you can tap into our wealth of resources, case studies, and industry knowledge that we've developed and accumulated over our nonprofit's existence. And it also offers you that in tandem with accessing volunteer opportunities and managing your Taproot Plus account. So all the information and skill donation opportunities exist and live here. If you haven't already created an account to support nonprofit needs, you'll see two options highlighted on the screen in the middle here, the Get Started and Sign Up for Taproot Plus. So that will allow you to create an account, or you can also create an account in the top right. And once you signed up, you can always log in using the login button in the top right. You can also access more information about volunteering by selecting the Give Back option on the top. So here's where you can see under resources, there's event recordings, our guidance around tools and research. That success story will be there. I think Kristen might have shared a couple blogs in the chat. Those will be under resources. And you can always access your account again in that top right corner. So as I mentioned, the first step here is to create an account. The process to create an account is pretty simple. So when you create an account, you'll be prompted to select your skills and add cause areas you're interested in. This is a little bit different than maybe other accounts you've created for volunteer opportunities, but sharing these details really allows us to better connect you with opportunities that are a good fit for you. And we will, it allows us to send opportunity recommendation emails, share tools, research, and events that suit you specifically. And it makes it easier for you to spot the right opportunities as indicated on the opportunities page by a skills match. So there'll be a skills match tag when an opportunity has a skill that you've selected in your account. It also allows us to show those opportunities that fit your profile at the top of your opportunities page. There's a recommended toggle that you can turn on to see opportunities that are a good fit based on your profile. But if you're struggling to figure out which skills fit your experience or expertise, you can refer back to that reflection exercise that we went through, or you can always feel free to reach out to our team and we can provide some additional guidance there. But that, if you take away anything from the creating your account process, these skills and cause area selections are really key to helping us help you have the best of your experience. In general, we recommend that volunteers have some previous experience in any skill that you want to share. We recognize that experience comes in many forms, so you might not have formal job experience in a skill area, and you can still have expertise in that. But that said, it's important to keep in mind that nonprofits often don't have the skill sets on staff that they're asking for, and they won't be able to provide any professional training to you as a volunteer. So we don't recommend using skilled volunteering as a place to completely break in a new skill that you've never learned about, but it can be a great place to demonstrate a skill you've learned about or are hoping to deepen. You'll also be prompted as you create an account to add your LinkedIn, just like you all did in the chat here. This is optional, but it allows nonprofits to see some overview information about you when you apply, so they can kind of have access to that information before they meet with you. You can update your skills, cause areas, and email preferences at any time on the profile page on your Taproot Plus dashboard. And we encourage you to keep all of these up to date. So as your skills change or you grow, we encourage you to go back in and add those new skills so we can continue to send you the best fit opportunities. So a little bit more about finding opportunities. Once you've created an account, you're ready to start searching for opportunities. And I want to take this moment to highlight something really important. Taproot Plus has two program options, which I alluded to early on. We offer sessions and projects. So sessions are 1-hour consultations where skilled volunteers connect with nonprofits in need of creative brainstorming, project planning, or problem solving assistance. At the end of a session, there's no concrete deliverable involved. It's just a discussion with a subject matter expert. Projects, on the other hand, are multi-week capacity building engagements that result in the creation of a specific deliverable. So we recommend that volunteers have the capacity to dedicate around 3 to 5 hours each week, and we typically see projects take between 2 to 10 weeks. The time commitment ultimately depends on your availability, the skills required, and the scope of work, which we encourage you to finalize and agree upon during your project kickoff. You're both entering the partnership with a shared understanding of the intended outcome from a project. So that's kind of where they differ. We'll go into greater detail about how they differ in a second here, but you can browse opportunities through our opportunities page. So in that screenshot I showed earlier, there's an opportunities tab at the top. Kristen also just dropped it in the chat. This is where you'll be able to see all opportunities that come through on our request side from nonprofits. And I wanted to show kind of a peek of what that looks like. So some of you are probably playing along with me and have clicked through some of the pages on the site. This is a screenshot of what the volunteer opportunities page looks like. So you'll see a couple of different ways to navigate. You can use the search box up at the top to put in keywords, and it pulls up some opportunities based on that. You also see we have 9 skills categories. These are the categories that kind of sit above the specific skills. So if you have a skill under accounting and finance, for example, you might be skilled in QuickBooks. You could click under accounting and finance to find opportunities specific to that skill. You're also able to filter by those cause areas. So if you have a specific interest in terms of the type of organization you want to give back to, you can filter using that cause filter. You can also filter by type. So that time commitment allows you to filter through either a 1-hour consultation, which is the session, or a multi-week engagement, which is the project. So that allows you to kind of pick through which one. And you'll see also as on these kind of tiles, it has the engagement type at the top, either 1-hour consultation or project. And Jan, I see that you also have highlighted you have a recommended for you toggle. So I think that was removed on my screenshot because I was taking it from the nonprofit side, not the volunteer side. So I apologize for that oversight. Volunteers have a recommended for you toggle, and they also have a featured opportunities toggle. And those that recommended for you toggle gets back at what I was saying earlier about selecting those skills. And it is automatically toggled on for you so that when you have skills selected in your account, it shows up with those skills match ones at the top. And as I mentioned, here's just kind of a side-by-side comparison of the program models we have. Again, projects are 2 to 10 week collaborations that end, it says 12 here, sometimes they go a little bit longer, that end in a focused concrete deliverable. The goal of projects is to assess an organization's challenge and provide an easy to use solution. So the goal is to have something that the nonprofit can put into implementation by the end of it. On the other hand, sessions are that 1-hour consultation call that provides the nonprofit with an expert to act as as a partner through a challenge that they're experiencing or something they'd like to get more information about. The goal of a session is to share as much information on a topic as possible in that 60-minute time frame. So to highlight the outcome of each and help you kind of compare the difference, consider this challenge. So a nonprofit might express that they would like to improve their ability to track their financial progress and prepare their annual tax filing. That's kind of what they're working on and what their challenge is. To address this challenge, a project would involve setting up an accounting system such as QuickBooks. So doing the work to help them have that system in place. Whereas a session would provide tips on setting up accounting systems, or it would provide an overview of what needs to be considered in order to set up an accounting system successfully. So that's kind of how those differ. Projects and sessions also differ slightly in their process. So after applying for a project, a nonprofit will review your application to decide if they'd like to get to know you better. At this point, they'd schedule a 30-minute interview to assess fit. And if a fit is established, you'll enter the project kickoff phase where you'll set up expectations to carry out the deliverable. On the session side, after you apply for a session, if a nonprofit is interested in meeting with you, they'll schedule the 60-minute call. After the 60 minutes, you're not required to continue working with the nonprofit. So that's kind of a side-by-side comparison. Hopefully that's like a helpful visual for folks who are trying to figure out which kind of program model they're more interested in contributing time for. I think sessions are a great way to dip your toes into volunteering because it's kind of that way to give a deep dive of your expertise and then be able to kind of grow into projects as you learn a little bit more about the nonprofit sector and how you want to contribute. Okay, so now that we know a little bit more about projects and sessions, and maybe you've started browsing, let's say you found an opportunity that's a good fit for you, you'll go ahead and click the blue Apply Now button. So as long as you're logged in, there'll be an Apply Now button that comes up, and the application process should only take a few minutes. It consists of 3 main steps. So it'll ask you to complete the community agreement, which is just kind of a statement of that you're ready to work with the nonprofit, that you're ready to be responsive. We ask the nonprofit to kind of complete the same agreement, and it allows us to kind of hold some accountability from the beginning. After that, we'll ask you to provide a brief statement of interest, and this is a really short 2 to 5 sentence statement that just kind of shares a little bit more about what brings you to the opportunity, why you're interested in being involved, and what you can bring to the table. And I will make sure to share, I have like a little bit of an outline of to get you started there, and I can share that in the follow-up resources. And then the last thing is to select your availability for when you're ready for a call with the nonprofit. And again, this is where sessions and projects differ. Projects have an interview stage where sessions do not. So if you apply for a project, you'll have that 30-minute call, whereas if you apply for a session, the time that's scheduled is just that 1 hour. And because it's such a short, discrete interaction, there isn't an additional interview step built in. So you kind of get through those get to know you details at the beginning of the session, and then you kind of move straight into that expertise sharing. For both sessions and projects, if a nonprofit schedules a call, you'll receive a confirmation email with details for accessing the conference line through your dashboard. So you'll see that both on your dashboard and in your email, and you should also receive a reminder in advance of that call. All right, I also wanted to kind of show a visual of the process because I know it can be hard sometimes to put it together orally or auditorily, and it's helpful to see a visual for those visual learners. So you start with browsing opportunities. If you find something, you apply, then you move into that scheduling phase. Sometimes there's some back and forth if the times you propose don't work for the nonprofit. They might propose new times, so you'll go back in and select what works best for both of you. After that scheduling, you'll either have that 30-minute project interview or the 1 hour session. And you'll see here, so that check mark indicates that after you meet for that 1 hour, that's the end of the session flow. So that means that your session will be marked complete from there. Um, if you are in the project flow, you'll continue on. If it's a good fit, you'll be matched. After that match, you'll enter this project kickoff. And the project kickoff isn't a formal phase on the site, so it won't be indicated as kind of a state of your project. But this is something that involves setting up the project for success and kind of digging into those communication expectations. And that's something that you and the nonprofit will do together. You'll either do it asynchronously, or we encourage you to also set up, if it works for both of you, a time to chat through expectations as you get into the work together. After that project kickoff, you'll go into the execution. So you'll begin working on that deliverable. You might engage in some check-ins to receive feedback, but you'll ultimately end with a deliverable and share kind of a debrief of your process, how to use it. And you'll, after you've kind of shared that deliverable and how to use it with a nonprofit, you'll mark the project as complete on the site, and that will be the end of the project flow there. And I didn't put this in, but I would encourage you to come back to browse opportunities. So it should be more of a circle rather than a linear flow there. Okay, and that's kind of the deep dive into Taproot Plus and the platform. I know that's, again, a lot of information coming at you about how to use it, and we encourage you to reach out to the help desk, or you can reach out to myself if you have questions as you're getting started there. But I wanted to take some time to just provide our top tips for pro bono consulting before we get into questions, because I want to make sure that you feel confident jumping in to browsing opportunities and connecting with nonprofits. So our tip one, and we started this a little bit today with that reflection exercise, but I think it's important to take a step back and kind of reflect intentionally about how you want to show up as a volunteer. So spend time identifying what a good fit might look like for you beyond the type of skills that you want to donate, thinking about what kind of partnership are you hoping to establish. And this is also a good note that if you do choose to work on a project and you have an interview and it doesn't feel like a good fit, just as much as we empower the nonprofit to communicate that upfront, we also empower the volunteer to do that as well. So you are not required to continue on with the project after you have that interview. And if it doesn't feel like a good fit, that can be the end as well. And you can go back and look at other opportunities. You'll just withdraw your application. Another thing is identifying your goals. So thinking about that question of what do I want to get out of this? What skills do I want to demonstrate? What kinds of organizations do I want to support? And then also evaluating your availability. So again, you might not have time for 3 to 5 hours a week. Maybe that 1 hour is a better fit for you. So thinking about how you can fit it into your schedule can also be really helpful from the beginning. We also on our website have a blog about fitting it into your schedule that we did that can be helpful as you think about your availability and how you want to get started. Another tip here is to communicate upfront. So I alluded to this a little bit earlier, but during that project kickoff, it is really, really key to share your boundaries, your expectations, and your communication preferences. So sharing these upfront helps set the understanding between you and the nonprofit. We also encourage you to ask the nonprofit about their boundaries, their expectations, and their preferences. You might only be able to meet in a certain time frame every week. So sharing that so that they know when you're available, or sharing how you prefer to receive feedback can be really helpful to setting that foundation for good collaboration. You also want to set yourself up for accountability and feedback. So along those same lines, how do you receive feedback? How do you give feedback? Do you want to create a work plan so you know the timeline you're working off of? We recommend that because it can be really helpful to keep you on track. Likely, this isn't the only thing you're working on. Everyone here is, I'm sure, very busy. So keeping it in mind that you want to hit those deadlines and make sure that you're moving forward with progress. So set yourself up for that accountability. And you also just every step want to make sure that you're ensuring that you have alignment with the nonprofit. Going back to those tips for translating your skills from the beginning, you just want to make sure that you are recognizing that you both bring expertise and kind of seeking to learn throughout the process. And that really helps ensure alignment there. It also increases the likelihood that the nonprofit will be able to utilize the deliverable that you've created. Our third tip is establishing two-way learning. So that kind of goes perfectly off the last one. This is a really unique benefit of this intersector collaboration in that there are lots of perspectives that you can learn and gain from this. So lead with curiosity, ask clarifying questions, and recognize areas where you might not be the expert, where you might need to learn more or take a step back. Our next tip is flexing your project management skills. So I mentioned that this is one of the benefits of skills-based volunteering is growing those soft skills and really being able to demonstrate them because they're crucial to every skills-based volunteering engagement. So if you have some past resources that can help you kind of build this ethic of project management, it's good to refresh those, go back into learning about the best practices, and make sure, again, to take time to clarify project management needs in the kickoff. And this is where co-creating a work plan could be really helpful in terms of project management. Our next tip is making sure you document and transfer knowledge. So in that flow, one of those steps was kind of debrief. And this is where this comes in. I encourage you to do it throughout the process, but you're, again, that expert who brings in a unique perspective. And you want to make sure that the insights that you share are able to be held by the nonprofit. So sharing examples, case studies, and resources that could help the nonprofit dig deeper. That's especially helpful in a 1-hour session. Towards the end, you've talked for an hour, it goes by faster than you might think. But you want to share additional resources or ways that the nonprofit might dig a little deeper into the topic you talked about in order to feel confident doing it. Also, throughout the project process, being able to document your process and share how people might be able to, on the nonprofit side, implement what you've put together can be really helpful in terms of them taking it forward and really being able to infuse it into their process. And lastly, we encourage you to celebrate wins. So this, again, that a personal fulfillment side is a really valuable piece of volunteering as a skills-based volunteer. And it can be helpful to have a little bit of joy in the process. So don't forget to have fun. Don't be shy with gratitude. Again, this is collaboration and connection that can bring you into a space of joy. We also want to add that you can definitely ask your nonprofit partner to kind of endorse you or celebrate in more tangible ways. So in terms of maybe providing a volunteer recommendation after you've done some work with them, you can request that. Again, you'll have to kind of be in the process of continual feedback in order for that to be a positive avenue. But there's definitely ways that we encourage you to collaborate with the nonprofit to recognize the work that you've done, and also kind of recognizing the nonprofit in your network could be really helpful to kind of have that mutual celebration of the work that you're both doing. All right. And so with that, I've given us 12 minutes to come back to questions here. On the screen, you'll see our help desk email and also my own email. So you're welcome to reach out to either at any time if you have questions or need support. And we, again, will follow up this webinar with the slides, the recording, and some other resources. But I wanted to get at some of the questions that you all have. Kristen has been sending them to me throughout. So thank you, Kristen. The first question is, what is your advice for professionals coming from a career break or sabbatical? Best practices around matching to being chosen by the right nonprofit. So this question of best practices around matching or being chosen came up also in our pre-submitted questions, and it's a great question because there are things that you can do on the volunteer side as you're applying that will kind of help you stand out to a nonprofit. So one of those things is that statement of interest. The statement of interest can be really, really helpful for the nonprofit to see why you're involved and how you want to be more involved. What things you can offer to them as a nonprofit, and it's a space where you can be really succinct about what you have to offer. I know from my own experience in posting volunteer opportunities that the statement of interest kind of helps assess from before you get too far if it's going to be gives you a little bit of insight into if it's going to be a good fit. So that's a really good space to increase your likelihood of connecting. I also do recommend putting your LinkedIn in your profile. I know there can sometimes be some concerns around your privacy, so it's again optional, but it can help the nonprofit have that overview of your experience as they're looking for support. Another question we have is, what due diligence do you do in selecting a nonprofit seeking volunteer assistance? And this is a good question from the nonprofit side. So what is our process for putting those opportunities on the site? So all nonprofits who come to Taproot to request support have to have certified charity status. So in the United States, what that looks like is they have to be a certified 501c3, and we check this through the IRS database. And if they have that status, they are approved to post projects and sessions. And by post, I mean ask, like put in a request for support. And the request for support is reviewed by Taproot staff before it's published onto the site. So we review every session and project before it is uploaded to that opportunities page. And what we're looking for when we look through projects is that there's a clear need defined in that project description. Another note about Taproot is we don't allow political or religious proselytizing on our site. So those are things that you won't see. You might see a religious or political organization that is requesting support, but it has to be not related to pushing a specific agenda. So that's something to keep in mind in terms of what types of nonprofits we support on the site. And then again, just in terms of quality assurance, like I said, when a nonprofit posts their requests, they have to also complete those community agreements. So that's just kind of another step that we ask nonprofits to go through, just like we do volunteers. One other question we got are most assignments for an individual volunteer or a team? And this is also a question that we got through the pre-submitted questions. At this time, the way Taproot Plus is designed is for that one-on-one support. So we, in most cases, in your average case, anticipate that you as a volunteer will be working directly with a nonprofit. On the nonprofit side, you might be working with more than one person from that nonprofit because they might bring in another team member to help kind of integrate the advice you're sharing. But the way it's set up is your application kind of is you representing you. If you do have someone that you want to bring in to a project, maybe you have a peer or a colleague that you already have in mind that you would like to work with, I encourage you to send an email to the help desk because we can kind of facilitate the matching on the back end. But at this time, we don't have the infrastructure to match individuals into team-based projects on the Taproot Plus site. But I will mention that sometimes as our funding allows, I think I mentioned this at the beginning, through our advisory services side, we might be able to offer some team-based opportunities, and you'll see that through advertised under events on Taproot website. But those are very ad hoc. It's kind of as we have the funding for them, and those would be team opportunities. But I definitely hear the appetite for more group related opportunities, and I'll keep that in mind as I'm integrating volunteer feedback. We get this question sometimes about how Taproot is funded, and that's a great question that kind of goes back to those three buckets of programming that we have. So on the Taproot Plus bucket, we have memberships. So we have some companies that are paying for kind of an exclusive version of our platform for their employees, and then under advisory services, we also have a kind of fee for service model that allows those larger companies to with us and our consultants and pay us for building out those employee programs in their organizations. So those kind of fee for service aspects do a large bit of our funding. We're also funded by some philanthropies and grants. Looking through other questions. Are all projects located in your immediate location? So this is a really good question that I didn't touch on. The Taproot Plus platform is intended to be mostly virtual, so you can connect with opportunities across the country, but also in your local community. So you'll be able to see. If the organization is locally based, you can see that in their profile at the bottom of their project posting. And if on the unlikely occasion they need an in-person, it will be stated either in the title or also kind of signified on that opportunity posting. But those are kind of few and far in between because we encourage our nonprofits to be able to work virtually because it expands their network. Also, a lot of the nonprofits that we work with are small grassroots organizations, and so they often are kind of connecting with whoever they can, and sometimes they don't even have offices themselves, so they might be working remotely, and this allows them to connect with volunteers in different communities. Let's see what else we have. Does Taproot have any tools to help project planning and documentation? This is a great question. And I would say it is also forthcoming. Something that we're really focused on building out in the future is more resources integrated into the Taproot Plus experience. And we're working with our product team to be able to have the ability to share more resources as you're at different stages of your volunteer experience. So definitely stay tuned for more information about those. But we do have some existing resources that are already on the site. And these would be under webinars are a great resource like this, that we have some webinars that are more specific to topics like project management. And those webinar recordings are a great place to go for some advice. We also have those blogs and tools and research tab under the resources on the website. And I would definitely check those out for some additional resources. But if there's something specific that you're interested in creating, I'm always open to working with volunteers to help us create resources as well. So if that's something that you'd be excited about, definitely encourage you to send an email and we can figure out how you can contribute in that way. We're definitely big fans of that volunteer-led engagement. So I'll take any advice there. Okay. I know we're coming up on time, so I'll do my best to kind of keep going. I'll probably get to about 2 more questions before the end here. And I know some people have started to drop off, and I want to be mindful of that. So again, if you have other questions that we didn't get to, please make sure to reach out to us. We're always here to support you in any way we can. And I'll do my best to also reach out to folks who pre-submitted questions with answers in the coming days if I can. I did get one pre-submitted question that I really wanted to touch on. The question was, what skills are needed? And I think this is a really great question because there's so many variety of skills that are needed on our site, but some that are that come to mind, especially as we're kind of looking towards the tail end of the year. For those who don't know, November and December are really large fundraising months for nonprofits. In December, there's Giving Tuesday, if you're familiar with that. So a lot of nonprofits will be doing campaigns, giving campaigns around that. So marketing and design are really needed as we kind of lead up to the end of the year. Also under that bucket, finance and accounting, it can be really, really helpful as people are considering, okay, I'm getting this influx of donations. How do I make sure I keep track of it? And CRMs in terms of like marketing management and segmenting can be really helpful support as we kind of get towards the end of the year. But as I've mentioned throughout, we really believe that everyone has unique skills of value that can be shared. I see one other question in the chat here that I want to make sure I address as we're coming up on time. Some of the opportunities were posted more than a year ago. Are they still open, or are they still open, and how are they dated, I guess? So we do have a process of cleaning up opportunities on the site, which we have recently implemented. But I will say the ones at the top are the most fresh. So if that's something that you're looking for is fresh opportunities, those come to the top. We also offer nonprofits the opportunity to boost their opportunity. So if it's been on the site for a little bit, they can push it to the top. But that's a really great question. I appreciate that. Thank you all so much for joining us today. I know there's lots more questions, so I would definitely welcome more. If there's anything you need, I'm here for you, and appreciate you all. Have a great afternoon and happy browsing.